Manchester United are standing firm on their valuation of Alejandro Garnacho. Marcus Rashford is in talks with AC Milan as reports of his decision being made today. Mwani gets the here we go to Juventus. The Saudi Pro League could be about to do us a massive favour and take away one of our big problems. Plus news on Toby Collier's future. All this plus more in today's video as we run through all the latest Manchester United news and transfer news that will keep you right up to date with everything. Welcome to Man United Review. My name's Jamie. Before we get into it, smash a like on the video. Let's jump straight into it. So, all the talk of the town at the moment, which has been for many, many weeks now, is around Marcus Rashford. The main kind of stories coming out at the moment all seem to be tailored around exits, mainly because we've got a few players that we are looking to move on, but also we are in that position where we need to sell to buy as well. So the exits are kind of seen as the catalyst of us potentially trying to bring players in. And unfortunately, because our players are on an absolutely extortionate wage compared to the sort of teams that they're looking at going to are going to be paying, it's just slow progress. It's just really slow because, you know, we don't want to be mugged off, but then also you've got to factor in the fact that we are paying ridiculous wages for a lot of our players as well, which does kind of hold up some of the deals. But let's go through all the exit noise. So Marcus Rashford's representatives have been in Milan and at least one other European city to talk to clubs about a possible January loan move. Any agreement will come down to United's willingness to not to pay a portion of his salary. It is felt that while there is loads of interest, bridging that gap is not close. So Laurie Whitwell, very credible source when it comes to United, effectively saying that, you know, Milan, we know he's been in Milan. I think Barcelona might be the other one, European city, because there was rumours that he was, Marcus Rashford's his brother, who his agent was speaking to Barcelona as well. But also a lot of it's going to be around the deal, around the finances. How much of his wages are we going to have to pay? Is it going to be a straight loan? Is it a loan option to buy, obligation to buy, permanent sale? Do you know what I mean? All of these things we don't know yet, but also bridging the gap between what United want to pay for him to go out on loan and the other teams wanting to pay in terms of his wages is not close. So that's going to be, you know, potentially the sticking point, because you've got to remember he's on like 350 grand a week, around that sort of figure, which is not something that other teams are going to pay for on a loan. They're not going to pay 100% of his wages. So it's just a case of, well, what's the right deal for us? But then also that then we'll then know what sort of budget we've got for the rest of the, not just the transfer window, because obviously we've got to worry about PSR rules as well. Because if we pay, I don't know, 50% of his wages, that might mean that we can only bring in, I don't know, one player. But if we pay 75% of his, or Milan, or so whoever pays 75% of his wages, and we get a loan fee in and it's an option to buy, it gives us different kind of options. That's the way it kind of feels to me anyway regarding the transfer window. But let me know what you think about that one in the comments. Now, Marcus Rashford is not training with the Manchester United squad today. He will train individually later as he recovers from illness. So Sky is saying apparently Marcus is still ill. That's why he's training by himself. Believe what you will when it comes to that. AC Milan are expecting a response from Marcus Rashford's brother or agent in the next few hours. That came from an Italian outlet who's been fairly decent with the Marcus Rashford stories over the last few weeks. Today is a decisive day for Marcus Rashford's future. That came from Di Marzio. Marcus Rashford's brother and agent Dwayne Maynard is set to engage with Manchester United over potential proposals for the forward's exit after offering the player to multiple European clubs in recent weeks. That came from Melissa Reddy, so kind of collaborating what Dimarcio was saying. And then a meeting is underway between Marcus Rashford's agent and AC Milan, who hope to obtain the player's approval in the next few hours. Decisive hours. That came from Corriere dello Sport. Ben Jacobs, Manchester United are in advanced talk to join. Marcus Rashford is in advanced talks to join AC Milan. His representatives have returned to Italy for fresh discussions, and his preference is to join Milan as long as Barcelona do not make a big attempt at the 11th hour. Milan need to make a final decision on whether to recruit Rashford or Kyle Walker within the next 24 hours. That came from Ben Jacobs. So in summary, we're still no further forward with Marcus Rashford. There's just talk about, decision going to be made in the next few hours, the next 24 hours, the next 48 hours, and so on and so forth. We just need to get a conclusion, don't we? We just do really need to get a conclusion to this kind of saga, because it's, he's not been in the squad now for 4 weeks, is it, I think? a month since he's kind of made an appearance, I think, for United, and it's just dragging on too long, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? But again, the main issue with the whole Marcus Rashford situation is the wages that we offered him on his last contract, him a 5-year contract, 350 odd grand a week. There were some reports £365,000 a week. Do you know what I mean? And that's not an easy deal to try to move that player on. It is what it is. It is what it is. But let me know what you think about the Rashford situation in the comments. Now, another player that's been linked with an exit, not one that I don't think is planned. I don't think we're planning to sell Garnacho, but still heavily linked with a move, is Garnacho. So over the past few weeks, Alejandro Garnacho's agent and representatives have been talking about the player's future as up to Garnacho. That came from the Muppeteers, so effectively saying that it feels like his agent kind of talking, and if Garnacho wants to leave, then potentially we could facilitate an exit at the right price. Reports of Napoli making a move for Garnacho in this transfer window seem a little bit wider of the mark. United sources indicate that the speculation is agent driven and the club are unlikely to entertain offers for Garnacho this month unless unless an exceptionally high bid comes in. That came from Chris Wheeler. The potential transfer of Alejandro Garnacho to Napoli remains complicated at the moment. This is due to Manchester United's demand for a £70 million fee, which has not been lowered in recent hours. That came from Damarcio. Alejandro Garnacho is open to the idea of Napoli's proposal. His salary would not be a problem. Manchester United are demanding £67 million, while Napoli would only put £38 million, including bonuses, on the table. That came from the Gazzetta. Sorry, I got to laugh at that. They think we're going to sell Garnacho for £38 million, including bonuses. Yeah, let me know what you think about that one in the comment. I actually think that's quite insulting. £38 million, including bonuses, when you've just got €70 million for Kvaratskhelia. Yeah, imagine the shoe on the other foot. If we were offering £38 million for Kvaratskhelia from Napoli, imagine the kind of response we would get for that one. And expected new talks between Napoli and United for Alejandro Garnacho. The sports director, Giovanni Manna, is pushing to sign the Argentinian winger as Kvaratskhelia replacement. Garnacho has already given his availability to join Napoli. So, again, another Italian kind of news outlet or journalist kind of, suggesting that Napoli want to make a move and they're talking to him and Garnacho wants to go and all of this kind of stuff. Does anyone else get the feeling, let me know in the comments, right, around the Xerxes situation with Garnacho, where there was a lot of Italian media and Italian sources kind of saying Xerxes to Juventus, swap deals with Vlahovic and all this kind of noise. But then the British press weren't really saying anything until David Ornstein come out and said, yeah, no, he wants to stay. And then that kind of situation's gone really, really quiet. And I kind of get a similar feeling with Garnacho, where it seems to be a lot of Italian outlets and Italian journalists pushing for this deal. He's Conte's first choice and, all these kind of, he's in talks, he wants to go and all of this stuff. But the more kind of mainstream, like Chris Wheeler saying, they're wide of the mark, and we've not really heard anything from an Ornstein or a Laurie Whitwell or anyone of that nature regarding Garnacho going. So I do kind of think let's take these stories with a bit of a pinch of salt. But there is no smoke without fire. Reading between the lines, personally, I think if United got a £70 million or around that kind of figure bid for Garnacho and Garnacho wanted to go, then they might consider it. That's the way I see the situation personally. Reading between the lines and going through all the kind of bullshit and the noise and stuff is that I don't think we're actively wanting to sell Garnacho unless it's those conditions. It's the fee that we feel is right, not £38 million, including bonuses, for example. £60 million, 65 plus some add-ons. Do you know what I mean? Around that sort of figure would probably be a fair reflection on Garnacho, in my opinion. But then also, if Garnacho wants to go himself, and there's no indication that he wants to go, do you know what I mean? He put in a good performance against Arsenal, did well off the bench against Liverpool. Do you know what I mean? His decision making is the frustration, I think, with Garnacho. And actually, last couple of appearances he's made, his decision making's been really good. Do you know what I mean? Especially the Arsenal assist, I was kind of thinking that, like, how many times would you have seen Garnacho try to go for goal in that situation? And then would have been like, Bruno was free at the back post, why didn't he pass? Laid it on a plate for him, do you know what I mean, to create the goal. And the same thing for Liverpool as well. Got to the byline, put the ball in with his left foot to the right spot in the penalty area for Ahmad to score. So, his decision-making's actually been pretty good recently. So, Yeah, that's how I personally feel about the Garnacho situation. You might have different opinions and different thoughts and stuff, but let me know what you feel about that situation in the comments. Now, another player we might be looking to move on, or potentially looking to move on in January, is Casemiro. Now, the noise around him's gone a little bit quiet over the last couple of weeks since we had reports last week around agreement, or he's accepted terms with Saudi, and lots of noise around the Saudi Pro League and stuff, but there's not really been anything since. So whether that's bullshit stories that came out at the time, or whether it's just still negotiations and there's things going on behind the scenes. But Laurie Whitwell said that at this stage, a proposed move to Saudi Arabia for Casemiro is regarded as premature. And the Muppeteers were saying the MLS are becoming increasingly interested in signing Casemiro. So that's one to potentially keep an eye on. Obviously, we know the Saudi Pro Leagues have got a certain quota that they want to fill, and the noise around him going there has gone a little bit quiet, like I said, over the last week. So MLS could be another opportunity. And again, this goes back to the whole kind of point I was saying before. Problem with removing players is their wages. That's the kind of main issue, and it's a legacy problem United have got. That's why, look at Lindelof, for example. He's on 120 grand a week, and we're going to let him go for free because nobody wanted to buy him last season or last summer, because no one's going to pay him those sort of wages. And that's the kind of problem we have. And until we kind of get sensible and get the right contracts and get rid of all these players that are on these inflated wages and have a proper restructure of our wage bill, then we're always going to be really bad sellers. We're always going to be really bad. It's always going to be really difficult to get rid of these players, in my opinion. But let me know what you think in the comments. Now, another player that fits that model actually is Antony. So Real Betis, excuse me, are interested in signing Antony on loan, but they want Manchester United to pay more than half of his wages, believed to be in the region of £200,000 a week. United are hoping more clubs come to the table before making a final decision. That came from Alex Cook from TalkSport. And that's the kind of point I was saying there. 200 grand a week for Antony when he was on 20 grand a week before when we signed him. Plus, we paid an absolute shit ton of money for him, pretty much double what the asking price was from Ajax at the start of the transfer. Like, that transfer genuinely needs investigating as to what actually happened. I know Ten Hag gets the blame for it, right? But Ten Hag is not involved in the financial and the budgeting and the contract, negotiations and stuff. He's a coach and a manager. All that stuff is done by lawyers and financial experts that United pay to do these sort of deals. And somebody somewhere said, yeah, we're happy for 85 million euros and we'll give you 200 grand a week. And I don't believe that was Ten Hag. Ten Hag could have vetoed it. I agree. He could have stopped that transfer going through once he heard the figures, because of course he would have known about the kind of price and all of that stuff beforehand. So the fact he didn't veto that deal is where I think the responsibility for Ten Hag lies. But he's not involved in those kind of contracts. Like somebody, and that's why people have lost their jobs. That's why Mert's not here. Richard Arnold's not here. Obviously, Woodward went before Arnold took over anyway. And that's why a lot of these higher-up people have been sacked, because they've been shit, and somebody somewhere at United did that deal, and it's insane in my opinion. But there could be an out. So several player agents have offered Antony the opportunity to move to a club in the Saudi Pro League in this transfer window. Antony received a promise from one of the agents to bring an offer from a Saudi club. However, he declined. Preferring to negotiate directly with the club without an intermediary, he is considering leaving Manchester United. Now, that came from a Saudi Arabian news outlet with nearly 3 million followers. So I'm going to assume that that's a fairly credible source of information regarding that, suggesting that potentially, so intermediaries, so like agents have kind of said, look, to Antony, that we can negotiate a deal for you to come to the Saudi Pro League, but Antony hasn't declined going to Saudi. He just declined using that intermediary and just said, well, I'd rather do it myself with my agent and stuff. So that's one to keep an eye on. That would be a dream scenario for the Saudi Pro League clubs to come in, make a bid, and actually just get rid of Antony altogether, because the only other options we've got with Antony is we're going to have to loan him out, pay more than 50% of his wages. So we're going to have to pay, because the report before was saying, Real Betis are only going to pay, like £80,000 towards his, and we're going to have to still pay him 120 grand a week or thereabouts, do you know what I mean, to go on loan. and we're going to have the same problem in the summer and the same problem because of his wages. That's going to trap him at, I can see him having like a Eric Bailly end to his career where we're just constantly loaning him out until his contract runs out, unless you get somebody like the Saudi Pro League to come in for him. So that would be, I've got a bit giddy there around that. We'll need to wait and see how it develops. But that's the kind of, that would be a massive boost, I think, to get Antony out, get his wages off the book, and get some money in. Not that it's going to help us with PSR, because it would actually be a loss. But, let's just take the hit. Let's just do what's needed to be done. But we'll need to wait and see how that develops. But let me know what you think in the comments. Now, Manchester United will not be charged for any profit and sustainability regulation breaches for the 23-24 season, confirmed officially by the Premier League. However, Manchester United's rivals are ready to pounce on a January deal for Kobbie Mainoo, Alejandro Garnacho and Marcus Rashford as they anticipate Sir Jim Ratcliffe wanting to avoid frantic PSR sales on June the 30th to stay within financial rules. Clubs interested in United players believe they are more open to a deal before the January transfer window closes. Now, that came from Mike McGrath in The Independent, who's a decent source. Effectively, I'll summarise that is, if you remember back to this summer, Newcastle got incredibly desperate in June because they had to comply with PSR rules, and we swooped in and got Dan Ashworth done for 3 million. Remember that they were asking for 20 million before that. And then he was on gardening leave. I know we've sacked him since, but that's by the by. The point of making is that Newcastle became desperate to get money in order to comply with PSR, so they didn't face a points deduction or fines and all that kind of stuff, right? That they allowed Dan Ashworth to come to us for 3 million when they wanted 20 million beforehand. So what that kind of story is suggesting that United might be more acceptable to selling players at the end of January to avoid that shit show in the summer where we're scrambling around trying to get a couple million here and there for players in before June the 30th, which is not, is that why, why the dealings are taking so long? Who knows? I kind of think that's, and the players mentioned, Mainoo, Garnacho and Rashford. I think Rashford's, going to go. But again, Garnacho, I can't see it unless we get a massive bid for him, in which case, if we get a massive bid for any player, we're going to probably accept it. That's the way football is, unfortunately. But let me know what you think about that in the comments. Kolo Muani to Juventus. Here we go from Fabrizio Romano. So player we're not bringing in on loan is Muani. Straight loan as well. No option, no obligation to buy. Remember the rumours with us, it was an obligation to buy, and we were saying about, is he a player that we really want as an obligation to buy? Muani, personally, I'm not really bothered. Not really bothered about missing out on Muani. Is he really, it's a short-term deal that really, offers us nothing in terms of longevity? Yes, he might come in and be a body, around, but, there's no longevity in it. I think Ineos do not want to do these sort of deals. It's a complete waste of money when the purse strings are tight anyway. If it was someone that we wanted and it was an option to buy, do you know what I mean? Maybe, but again, we need to create the squad space as well. So personally, not bothered about Muani, but you can let me know what you think in the comments. Now, when Manchester United hierarchy met to discuss plans for January and the summer, Ruben Amorim made it plain that an extension for Harry Maguire was a must. So that's an interesting. That came from the Daily Mail saying that when they met for transfer talks, Harry Maguire was the first. Well, if you think about it, we renewed his contract before we gave Amad Diallo one as well. So that kind of shows how highly regarded he is by Ruben Amorim behind the scenes. And to be fair, he's been putting in some good performances in the last couple of years as well. So, and there are rumours that we might be negotiating a new contract with him, maybe on a reduced salary, which would be interesting as well. But then Chris Wheeler and Nick So also said that following Harry Maguire's revival, Manchester United will be looking at signing a younger centre-back with potential rather than paying big money for a ready-made replacement like Jared Branthwaite. And that's fair enough. Yeah, I can see that. I don't necessarily think it's anything to do with price or anything neither, because look how much we paid for Lenny Yoro. It's not like he was dead cheap. Even young players are going to cost a fortune when it comes to United coming in for them as well, unless you can find someone like a Diego Leon or, a Sekou Kone, someone of that nature as well. But with Maguire staying, yeah, that's probably fair enough. I do think we need maybe someone to cover for Martinez now on that left-hand side. Obviously, there were links the other day with Inacio, but that's gone a little bit dead since that kind of story came out as well. But let me know what you think about that in the comments. In terms of names, in reference to recent reports suggesting Manchester United are targeting a younger centre-back with potential, there have been long-standing interest in Ousmane Diomande, who worked under Ruben Amorim at Sporting, so that would make sense as well as a young developmental kind of player, but he's going to cost... not as much as Branthwaite. Branthwaite was, 80 million last time for Everton? The reports were on that one, so he'd be a little bit cheaper, but, I wouldn't be against that neither as well. But let me know what you think in the comments. So alongside Dan Gore, Harry Amas, Ethan Wheatley and Ethan Williams are under consideration for possible loan exits. That came from Steve Ralston. Fair enough, if they're not going to be playing and, loaning these sort of players out, it's a win-win for United. One, young players get game time in men's football to help develop their career, and then also puts them in the shop window for if they're not good enough, where other clubs, lower league clubs, might come in and pay a few £1 million for them, which all helps towards PSR roles as well. So I can see, it's a win-win for us. Players develop, plus also puts them in the shop window if we don't think that they're ready for first team at United. We can then kind of move them on as long as we protect ourselves with all the buyback and sell-on clauses and all that stuff. Ethan Williams is heading out to League Two on loan with a move expected to be finalised immediately, and Diego Leon and Sekou Kone are both seen as high potential young players who should progress to the Manchester United first team. Steve Ralston, very good from the Manchester Evening News regarding United Youth, suggesting that these two specifically are seen as future first team players. I think Chido Martin's got a lot of development in him as well. Obviously, we bought Lascelles as well, who's a very promising player in the summer. So definitely, future does look a little bit bright with some of these players, but those two specifically seen as first team players. I wonder if that's where, the kind of links around us going for midfielders are quieting down, because we're not really heavily linked with a lot of midfielders. And I do think that's a key area. So maybe it's because they see Kone as one to pencil in to be around the first team squad. That will be interesting. Let me know what you think in the comments. And then the final story I've got for you is that Manchester United have no intention of loaning Toby Collyer this month. Ruben Amorim wants to keep him. That came from Laurie Whitwell. Very credible. I like that. I thought he had a good cameo against Arsenal the other day, and I was saying it after the Newcastle game, how shit must Toby Collyer be to not be getting game times in front of Casemiro and Eriksen, because they were absolutely tragic. And they have been, we can't be playing those two in midfield. And I was, I'm grateful and really am kind of looking forward to hopefully Toby Collyer getting a few minutes as well. He might not be the best on the ball, but energy, effort, I think he's got the best running stats at United behind only Bruno Fernandes. So he is an energetic, player that will give us some legs at least in midfield. So I'm happy that he's going to be staying, and then hopefully that means that he's going to get some more minutes in the first team as well. But let me know what you think about that in the comments. Let me know what you think about all the other topics discussed in today's video, because it's you all up to date with the latest Manchester United news and transfer news. Smash a like on the video on your way out. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. See you in the next one.